Humans have many varieties of religious experience, as William James explained. One of the most common is climbing the secret staircase and losing ourselves. The staircase takes us from the experience of life as profane or ordinary, upwards to the experience of life as sacred or deeply interconnected. We are homo duplex, as Durkheim explained. And we are homo duplex because we evolved by multi-level selection, as Darwin explained. I can't be certain that the staircase is an adaptation rather than a bug. But if it is an adaptation, then the implications are profound. If it is an adaptation, then we evolved to be religious. I don't mean that we evolved to join gigantic organized religions. Those things came along too recently. I mean that we evolved to see sacredness all around us and to join with others into teams that circle around sacred objects, people, and ideas. This is why politics is so tribal. Politics is partly profane, it's partly about self-interest, but politics is also about sacredness. It's about joining with others to pursue moral ideals. It's about the eternal struggle between good and evil, and we all believe we're on the good team. And most importantly, if the staircase is real, it explains the persistent undercurrent of dissatisfaction in modern life. Because human beings are, to some extent, hivish creatures like bees. We're bees who busted out of the hive during the Enlightenment. We broke down the old institutions and brought liberty to the oppressed. We unleashed earth-changing creativity and generated vast wealth and comfort. Nowadays, we fly around like individual bees exulting in our freedom. But sometimes we wonder, is this all there is? What should I do with my life? What's missing? What's missing is that we are homo duplex, but modern secular society was built to satisfy our lower, profane selves. It's really comfortable down here on the lower level. Come, have a seat in my home entertainment center. One great challenge of modern life is to find the staircase amid all the clutter, and then to do something good and noble once you climb to the top. I see this desire in my students at the University of Virginia. They all want to find a cause or calling that they can throw themselves into. They're all searching for their staircase. And that gives me hope, because people are not purely selfish. Most people long to overcome pettiness and become part of something larger. And this explains the extraordinary resonance of this simple metaphor, conjured up nearly 400 years ago. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main.
If we define God as an arbiter who transcends all human beings, a moral constant by which human beings comport themselves in the world, or a moral model to which people appeal for stability, then God will be an enduring phenomenon. We may call God something different in the future. Just as human beings have historically worshipped different gods in different places and times, we may continue to develop the current secular trend and intensify our worship of human rights, equality, and social justice, which themselves are gods as we define them, arbiters who transcend all human beings, moral constants by which human beings comport themselves in the world, etc. Regardless of the kinds of gods we worship, it should be noted that they're not real in the sense that they exist independently of human beings, whether those gods are of the Greek pantheon or the human rites of contemporary secular religions, but they are real in the sense that they have an impact on the real world, when and where they're believed. It's in the nature of human beings, especially when trying to function in large societies, to imagine and develop some moral standard outside all individuals to rally around, to foster order and cohesion. Nothing serves this function better than a belief in God. The God concept fosters cooperation between people, even when they're not genetically related. They're brothers and sisters in belief. This is good. Cooperation is what we want, because it breeds peace, prosperity, and reduces conflict. And greater than any of those goals, God and religion give believers purpose in life, a purpose so magnificent adherents are willing to die for it. The problem with beliefs that transcend all worldly human desires, as all beliefs in gods do, is that well, they trivialize human beings as God's pawns. In other words, the edicts and commands of God always trump human well-being because, by definition, God transcends all people. Therefore, the suffering of people can be justified under the dominion of God. Of course, God doesn't actually exist, so God itself doesn't act in the world. It's always people who believe they act on behalf of God who inflict suffering. This is a paradox, an unforgivable irony in the human creation of God's devised to protect the well-being of human beings. But the God concept doesn't just endanger individual well-being. One of the professed benefits of a belief in God, namely group cohesion, bringing believers together under a united identity, is also a primary source of violent conflict. Because the successful formation of a united group identity requires a strong contrast to the outgroup heathens, barbarians, who don't believe in the same God. This is what makes a particular group feel special. Quote, "We are the chosen ones, unlike those barbarians who worship false gods," unquote. And so, in the service of any god, the outcomes of cooperation and conflict are inextricable from one another. Cooperation in the in-group and violent conflict against the out-group. But God and religion are not really the cause of human conflicts advanced in the name of God. God and religion are only instruments of the true cause of those conflicts, which is tribalism. To generate conflict, you can replace God and religion with any abstract that similarly transcends human beings, anything to which we grant a higher value than mere people, and to which some people appeal outside the natural world for purpose, will cause the diminution of human life. There is, of course, the idea of uniting all people of the world politically and spiritually, so as to alleviate tribal conflict. See Imagine by John Lennon. Because it is said that if there's only one tribe, there's no one to fight. But this idea is the apex of hubris, the peak of utopianist insanity that will make violent communism look like a paradise. Because tribalism can't be politically eradicated. It's part of human nature, and if we can't differentiate ourselves by nationality or religion and steer clear of each other, we'll find other ways within a united utopia to create cultural islands, like we do in prison, that are defined by perpetual wars surrounding identity crises. The moral to the story is not that we should accept God because it renders group cohesion and a transcendent purpose, but that we should derive meaning from something within the natural world that is subject to ongoing evaluation and criticism, so that we can no longer justify the subordination of human well-being. Of course, the problem with that is, human beings will no longer have transcendent purpose via a transcendent God. It seems to come down to the choice between the reduction of conflict or maintaining transcendent meaning, because we can't have both operating simultaneously at full steam. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing to Abstract Thought for much more to come.